Let's go back to Detroit and your days as a cheerleader. Now, you did something that got you kicked off the squad. Can you tell me about that?
You know what? You didn't have to do too much in those days. It was it was the late '50s, and you just had to be kind of, do anything that was like the least bit suggestive or rocking or kind of, soulful, and that's really, it would be in an era when most people would be cheering, like going, like rah, 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 like that. We were doing like this. We were like getting down and like, being very, very soulful. Period. But when you play, we went and played a team, and the other cheer team was like putting us to shame. We had to rise to the occasion. So, I mean, in this day and age, it would be extremely tame, But yes, I had my notoriety.
Okay. Now let's go back to New York. You worked on Broadway, in fact, at a Howard Johnson's on Broadway.
Yes.
Now your waitress career ended somewhat prematurely because of something that you did.
Well, when I worked at Howard Johnson's, which was at 49th and Broadway, and it was the original Howard Johnson's in New York City. And it was very small, it was under-equipped, and it was, we had old uniforms there. They had not moved us up to the, the kind of brown and brownish, kind of tannish, orangey tricot that the people at the big place were wearing over on 8th Avenue. We were still wearing literally 1930s white cotton Howard Johnson's uniform. They had puffy sleeves, they were cut on the bias, they were very unflattering to the figure, especially to like young, skinny girls. And it went way down almost to our ankles, and so the ones of us who were aspiring actresses, the others would run in every morning and pry the starch apart, and then they'd roll up this big hem and they'd whip stitch it real fast, so they'd have mini skirt uniform, and they'd wear small shoes, so their leg was fairly attractive, and they wouldn't wear a hairnet. And of course, I'd wear the uniform regulation. And I'd wear big duty shoes, and I'd wear a hairnet, and I wanted to do the whole thing, it's like playing a role. So, and then we had it. So one day I go over to 8th Avenue to pick up some supplies or something, and on the wall I see a plaque, and it says Howard Johnson's Waitress of the Week. So when I get back to our store, I say, how come we don't have a Waitress of the Week? And they say, well, we're not even, and the boss says, we're not even in the regional competition. They don't pay any attention. They never even come and supervise us anymore. So I decided to appoint myself the Howard Johnson's Waitress of the Week. And we had a microphone, and I would get down behind the counter, and I would say, attention diners, your Howard Johnson's Waitress of the Week, Miss Lily Tomlin, is about to make an appearance on the floor. And then, of course, I'd go out, and everybody would applaud me, and I'd point out that the other girls had deregulated their uniforms, and
they frowned upon it.
And it was a success story.
Okay.
Big tips.
Okay. Now, taking on this the Miss Hathaway character, now I know there must have been some pluses and minuses that you had to weigh before accepting that. What were they?
Well, first you think about the fact that this is a character that's beloved and fondly remembered by many, 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 many people, and they're going to be, and so while you want to honor the character, you want to also reinterpret it to some extent and contemporize the character, and yet you want. If you do it wrong, then you're going to fail. The audience, there's going to be a big part of the audience that's just going to be offended, and they're going to be dissatisfied and miserable over it. And so you worry about that. And then I personally worried about. I kind of resisted, tapping into that part of me that was Miss Hathaway, even though I'd certainly done other eccentric, goony characters in my life, but. Never quite, once, but all I knew was that when I finally did commit, Miss Hathaway leapt from my body.
I was wondering what your attitude is about TV commercials, because I know early in your career you did some commercials, and isn't it true that
when I was unknown, yeah.
At one point, didn't the phone company offer you a lot of money to do some commercials with the Ernestine character?
Yeah, when I was on Laugh-In, they did, yes, but. And when they did, I mean, this is just, in some ways I'm telling you this because it's to show you how the sweetness, the purity, the idealism of youth, because I thought I was a real satirist, and I was doing something extremely stringent on the phone company. And of course, as soon as it went on the air, it was Ernestine was so popular, and the phone company wanted to cash in, wanted to tap into that popularity. And they came to me and offered me, and I would, truthfully, tears sprang to my eyes. I was so hurt and insulted that the phone company thought, here, I think I'm doing something very satiric on the phone company, and they want to co-opt it. So it was so diminishing to me and so leveling, you know, that I was sort of devastated for a bit. I mean, I didn't accept it, but you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. And one very, very quick question. Driving around Beverly Hills in the Clampett Mobile.
Yes.
How comfortable a car is that to drive around in?
Why, it's absolutely luxurious. It's not bad. It's not terribly bad, especially if someone's towing you. But when the night Jethro and I were driving that car down Sunset Strip, to show you how attached kids would be to these characters, this kind of like very punked out guy is driving by, you know, with, I mean, his hair all shaved and rings in his nose and his eyelids and everything else, and he was probably about 28, 30 years old, and he looked up and he said, "That's not the real Jethro, that's an imposter," you know. So we enjoyed it. We enjoyed all that going around the streets, because even then we could see how happy people were to see the Hillbillies, you know. Whenever we'd be out doing location, people would just kind of line the streets and wait for us to keep coming around and wave and laugh, and it was great.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.